People who sleep naked, when has it backfired? Not me, but I was spending the night at my friend's house in a suburban neighborhood. In the middle of the night his mom had let their toy fox terrier out to go pee and it got snatched by a coyote. She screamed and woke us all up. A wolf got noodle. Within 10 seconds his dad was sprinting out of the house completely butt-ass naked with a Glock in his hand and went running down the street. Came back about 15 minutes later with the dog and obviously still completely naked. Edit. It's come to my attention that this isn't exactly a backfire. But I think anything that causes you to run around your neighborhood naked should qualify. There was one morning in high school when my dad decided to wake me up for school by ripping the covers off me in bed. That was the last time that happened. I had a closet-sized single dorm room and people would always pull the fire alarm in the middle of the night and we'd all have to go outside. One time I was so drowsy I just walked out instinctively and halfway down the hall I raced back. Thankfully this was an old building so I didn't get locked out of the room. I used to sleep naked. Now I own a cat. Those two overlapped for only a week. I don't know if I would call it backfired. But, when the suicidal girl that's staying the night at your brother's house because they're watching this girl for suicide reasons, wakes you up in the middle of the night and is sitting right on top of you telling you that you have to talk her down right then and there or she's going to kill herself in front of you. Yeah, you would probably just rather be closed for that encounter. I locked myself out of my flat whilst sleepwalking one. My girlfriend was on holidays so I had to wait until morning. Borrow a towel off a neighbor and then walk about a mile up the road to the estate agents to get a spare key. Been sleeping in the raw since I was a kid and would fidget out of my PJs. I think it used to bug my mother but she finally gave up. Every girlfriend would start out the relationship by joining me. But over time would end up with the conventional night clothes. Hasn't backfired on me yet. I normally don't do this. But one summer night I had a meal from my local Mexican place that I love. Since I was busy that day, I didn't have lunch and decided to get significantly more than what I normally order to cure the hangry. I also did not get an opportunity to poop that day. Since it was unusually hot that night I decided to ditch everything and sleep bare. After one very realistic dream of me on the toilet. Let's just say that I had to get a new set of bedsheets the next morning. One time my sister was hiding in my closet to wait for a bit until I was almost asleep so she could scare me. Unfortunately, she didn't know I was whacking it. And she jumped out to scare me right as I came. Which ended up going all over her face and into her mouth. My mom heard the commotion and came into my room to investigate. And after seeing me naked and my sister covered in my jizz, got the wrong idea. To make a long story short, I now have to fuck both of them every night so they won't tell my girlfriend. I was at a hotel and the fire alarm went off. I had to very quickly find clothes, get dressed. It was a legit small fire too. When I was about 13 or 14, I used to sleep naked. Until I started to sleepwalk a lot. Never slept naked ever again. Edit. Sorry for what you had to see, Mom. Never chased a burglar down the stairs, through the kitchen and out my front door without wearing a shred of clothing and no weapon in hand. The power of nakedness. I started somewhere in high school because of night sweats. In college I moved into an on-campus apartment alone and the very next morning I woke up to 3 grown mid-50s dudes with their faces in my window. My bed was directly below the window. University housing gave some BS excuse about my window needing maintenance. Just my window specifically. None of the others in the entire complex. The window wasn't even designed to open. I think they were being pigs, but I was 1,000 miles away from anyone who cared about me. And just let it go. When in uni my room was right in front of the university. So when looking out my windows you would look straight into classrooms. So one day the inevitable happened. I had forgotten to close the curtains at night. You couldn't see me while I was in bed due to the head of the bed obstructing the window. However, getting out of the bed would expose my entire naked body to the world. So any bored student whose sight was wandering off outside the classroom window could get a nice viewing of my naked body. The way I fixed it was by simply rolling up in my bedsheets and sort of hopped to my curtains in my bedsheet roll. I am male BTW. So I didn't have to cover up breasts. Basic training. Getting called out of bed because someone fell asleep on guard duty. My private was standing at attention. I've been sleeping naked for over 40 years and so far, it hasn't caused me any problems anywhere. When my little cousin, who is a male, pulled my blankets off to wake me up, he was not expecting his oldest female cousin to be completely nude. That was a very awkward moment. I was young, like 12, and had just hit puberty. I had slept naked my whole life and it didn't change. One day, super hot babysitter that I didn't know was gonna work tries waking me up. Which was hard because I was a really heavy sleeper. I woke up right as she pulled the covers off me to behold my 12-year-old rock hard morning woodcock. I was at a house fire once during the night and the homeowner slept naked. When we arrived he was running around his front yard naked with a garden hose. Thankfully he was not injured and we were able to salvage most of his belongings. And the one thing he said is that he learned to now sleep with shorts on. I've always slept naked but the heater in my room was broken and it was getting too cold even with layers of blanket. I woke up that morning and knew I had the house to myself at least till late afternoon, so I continued snoozing in my sister's room with the heater on. Next thing I knew, I heard voices coming up the stairs. It was my sister and her friends. I guess they decided to ditch school and thought I wasn't home. I had no other choice but to roll over and hide under the bed. They were hanging out in that room for a good 2 hours and I was under the bed completely naked the whole time. That was almost 15 years ago and she still has no idea. When I backfired. It has never backfired. But typing this out seems like an invitation for mishaps. Deleted. Fortunately nothing yet for me personally, although TBH I don't sleep naked too often. Especially this time of year. A university flatmate had a boyfriend with a supposedly fairly bent dick. She claimed it was the result of a nighttime falling out of bed. Landing penis first with an erection. I can't sleep with clothes on due to sensitive skin. Backfire is nocturnal emission due me not having sex at all. When I was younger, a teenager, a sibling came in and ripped off my blankets. And X200B. Edit, please. Someone correct me if I am wrong. But I believe my punctuation is correct. I am was the teenager apparently in question. For example, a teenager, ate a salad for dinner. Or, when I was old, an elder, I was elected chairman of the board. My crush came over to study with me and I walked out butt naked. She just looked away. We've been dating for 4 years now. Not yet. Once when Raz in college knocked at my door in the middle of the night and it took me a second to get up and get dressed. They were sus of me. Other than that, been nothing but great. Even got my partner hooked on sleeping the same way. Deleted. Getting my period in my BFS bed. I'm on a BCP that makes it impossible to know when it's coming on. Maybe every 4 weeks. Maybe heaving spotting a week later. I just don't know. Fortunately he is super chill every time it happens. I think being with him induces my periods. He goes out of town for a week or 2. Nothing. He comes back. Sploosh. Not really backfiring per se. But this made, and makes, my wife laugh whenever she thinks about it. A few weeks ago, we heard a crash at about 2:30 a.m. I groggily grabbed my 9mm shotgun is locked up downstairs while I research new safes, and went to investigate. I cleared the entire house buck naked. I went back to bed. Locked my 9mm back in its case next to my bed. And laid down. About 2 minutes passed before we both started laughing hysterically about me walking through the house naked with a gun. Deleted. I was in the mental hospital. And my roommates and I were pretty close, so I was fine sleeping in my underwear. Sleeping there sucks. So I'd do anything to get a little more comfortable. Anyways. You get 15-minute checks there. Even through the night. I guess I wasn't ready when they shined the flashlight in and I covered up quickly. I got in trouble and was put on boundary precautions. There was a red dot by my name on the whiteboard. So everyone knew. From then on I had to sit one couch square away from everyone. Carefully monitored for the rest of my stay so I didn't get too close to my mental peers. Never. Been married twice. Pajama wife, my ex, and naked wife. The marriage with naked wife is, shall we say, much healthier. When we were robbed at gunpoint. It is awkward enough having a gun to your head. And being naked didn't help. Not me but an old friend's father. They own a cabin in Northern California out in the wilderness and go up a time or two every year. One night. Her dad decides to sleep outside on the porch in a sleeping bag. Of course in the nude. While he's sleeping. A bear sneaks up to the porch and grabs one of their coolers. This wakes him up and he sees a small bear trundling away with their stuff. This 6'3" large. Naked man gets out of his sleeping bag and begins chasing the bear while screaming at the top of his lungs. This scares the poor little bear so he drops the cooler and hightails it. They still have the cooler to this day. Complete with teeth marks. Spider in my butthole. When I was 16. My stepsister woke me up to tell me that Tim Hortons was on the phone. I had applied for a job there. I jump out of bed. And both of my arms are numb. I fumble around spectacularly trying to cover myself with my blanket in order to get to the phone. I run to my dad's room and pick up the heavy marble and gold rotary phone and smash myself in the forehead with it. I got the job. Every winter night when the sheets are ice cold upon initial descent. But the discomfort of wearing clothes outweighs that. So. One time I got up to get a glass of water in the middle of the night. I then fainted. The glass broke. And I fell on the shards. I woke up in a pool of blood right after. An extra layer could have probably helped with getting less cuts. Not really backfired but room inspection in the barracks. They always gave me time to get pants on after that. Never you fucking closed cards. About 5 years ago. Camping with some friends for senior week. I don't normally sleep naked but it was very hot. I slept naked. My GF slept with minimal clothes. First night my guy friend tried to scare me at like 1 or 2 in the morning. Was met with my birthday suit. He still teases me about it. I can't remember if it was the second or third night but the same instance happened with my girlfriend's friend and her boyfriend who were drinking and rushed into our tent without knocking I guess. I was fast asleep and don't remember the second one but they do. They also still tease me about it. Edit. Apparently I can't spell minimal correctly. Tornado warning. My parents wouldn't leave the room before I got up and out of bed. Very awkward. I do not regularly sleep naked. I think that having a wet dream would suck so I just keep my sweats on. If someone sees me naked when I don't plan for them to, then that's their own fault. If I am in my room it's fair game. And I don't have shame or care really. Other people have penises and vaginas, usually one or the other. But I am not judging. So. Why does it matter if they see mine? Just don't stare and we won't have much to talk about lol. When a sheriff knocked on my door at 2 a.m. in the morning and I completely forgot I was naked. Then of course as I'm scrambling. Out comes my son. The first time that my brother introduced his wife, girlfriend at the time, to our family was on a ski trip. We rented a condo near the resort we were skiing at. Long story short. An unfortunate series of events ended up with that condo burning to the ground. When we were awoken by the fire. My dad rushed out of his bedroom butt naked to fight the fire. The first time my brother's wife met my family. She literally had to fight a fire using mugs of water from the sink. Alongside my nude father. When the fire alarm went off in the middle of the night at my dorm a few weeks ago while my roommate was gone, I practically fell out of my lofted bed, threw something on, and filed outside with everyone else. So disorienting, the experience effectively halted that habit of mine, lol. I got blackout drunk and was apparently trying to go to the bathroom in our guest room after waking up naked. I used to sleep naked. One day I went to sleep and like an hour later I was woken up by police. They asked me to come out of my room fast since they thought they were burglars in my house. Not fun. Both me and husband used to sleep naked. There was an earthquake in the very early morning. So we each grabbed our 2 kids and ran outside. Just in time for the newspaper man to see us. I cannot fall asleep naked. I either wake up too cold or I roll over and crush my morning wood. I need that layer of underwear to keep things situated, and I need that t-shirt to keep my torso warm. My girlfriend and I back in high school ditched class and went back to my place. My parents were at work. We fucked and then fell asleep naked afterwards. We slept for way too long when my dad got home. He came in to see both of us in the buff. Surprisingly, he was more mad that I ditched school. A couple years ago. Now well into my 20s. He brought up that time. He told me he was actually more proud of me than he led me to believe. The worst backfire when sleeping naked is if you have an accidental backfire. I have slept naked most of my entire life. Until a few years ago. I was awoken around midnight by my crying and shaking 17-year-old son. He was super stressed about school and hit the breaking point one night when he couldn't sleep from worrying about it. I got up immediately and hugged him to comfort him. Went to his room and sat on his bed and he cried on my shoulder. Realizing I was naked. And this might take a while, and be a bit weird for him. I threw on some underwear and a shirt and we went downstairs to sit on the couch and talk about school, life and his future. After that night. Under fucking were. Every night. Last week. When I had diarrhea. Deleted. If you're the owner of a uterus. You know. Ruins the sheets if you lose track of the date. Once when my husband and I were making breakfast with a terrible hangover, my dog stole the sausages and ran out of the house. My husband ran out of the house and into a strong breeze wearing just the untied gown he'd thrown on when he woke. He was waving the knife he'd been using to chop tomatoes. Our neighbors were having some kind of smokers convention on their driveway and saw everything. Dog. Knife. Sausages. Bollocks. When my jizz hit the bed sheets. No good. Cleaning underwear is easier than cum crust on my bed sheets. I went to a college with very old dorms. They're historic and part of the school's charm. Built in the 1890s. They have a burn time of 2 minutes. Or so we were told. So if you hear a fire alarm, you need to get the fuck out. So picture me standing in the November cold at 2 a.m. naked as the day I was born, except for a quilt wrapped around me because some dipshit burned popcorn. In high school I managed to get into a higher level choir. Every year. They have a tradition of the older members going to the new members' houses and kidnapping them and going to breakfast. They did this very early in the morning. And new members didn't know when they were going to get them. When they came to kidnap me, they decided to set off a bunch of poppers in my room. I woke up screaming my head off and threw the blankets off of me in a natural reaction. You can figure out the rest. Many years ago, after a night out with friends, while living with my parents, I woke up with that shit I'm gonna puke feeling. Just about managed to make it to the bathroom, so I'm throwing my guts up and my dog decides to start licking my ass. I woke my mum up while throwing up. She almost pisses herself laughing. Eventually calms down and gets the dog out of the bathroom. Throws a towel over my bare ass and pulls the door shut. Been sleeping nude since I was in GR 5. The only time it's ever backfired is when my GF at the time had a friend from the other side of the country fly in for my birthday. At that time I had been training Muay Thai for 3 years. and was involved with a group of guys that we would spar 3 or 4 times a week full contact. So the morning after he arrives, my friend decided it would be a wise move to wake me up by jumping on me while I was still sleeping. So he got tossed to the wall. I rolled out of bed, backed up a bit cause I was still basically sleeping, and went into full fight stance. Naked. He was all dude. Put some fucking clothes on, and covered his eyes as he ran out of the room. He never did anything like that again. Never for now. My roommates any my family know I sleep naked so they don't just walk in. Edit. I forgot the family across my room at the time I had no curtains. On the other hand, it was not my problem. Whenever my dog jumps in the bed with me, I feel awkward laying down naked with her. Even though she always naked. I wonder if she ever feels awkward too. When my dog licked my balls. Had a conversation with one of my college friends in my dorm about how he doesn't understand how I can sleep naked. I believe his exact words were, "What if the fire alarm goes off?" Guess what happened within a week? House fire. Everyone else standing in warm pajamas on the curb looked with pity at me. Underpants. An inside-out t-shirt. And 2 mismatched slippers. Also, the fire was relatively contained at the time. But in a worse situation I might have perished in the flames trying to scramble together what few pieces of clothes laid on the floor. I lived in an apartment where maintenance would just come in. All the fucking time. I worked nights then, so I'd always be in bed asleep when they'd just straight up enter my room, so I'd just lay there awkwardly under the covers until they left. I'm in a new apartment now and maintenance is almost annoyingly non-existent. But admittedly I kinda like it. Went to take a nap. Sun clothes. Boyfriend, at the time, invites me to shoot up heroin with him. Heck yeah. Except I overdosed. My boyfriend called 911. And did CPR on me while the EMTs came. He said I was unconscious. Non-responsive. And my lips were blue. He said there were about 4 guys. Crammed into his bedroom. I kind of remember this part. But not really. I couldn't open my eyes. But I do remember hearing male voices. No light at the end of the tunnel. I got narcaned. I heard someone yell. There she is. She's coming to... Can we get some clothes for her? I didn't fully gain consciousness until I was in the hospital. Already throwing up from the pangs of withdrawal. 25 months sober. When I answer the door half gulp. It worked well for me back when I was staying at my girlfriend, now wife's, house. It was a tiny mill-style house and you could see the front and back doors from each other. A huge smashy sound wakes us up and our dogs start going absolutely insane. They are nice. Not barky dogs. I am, at heart, a coward. But I know that if I don't head whomever or whatever off at the door, there's no real egress from our bedroom. So I'll leap up in all my terrified glory and charge the door screaming "WHO the FCK is that," and I never see anything. The next day, though, we found the door frame cracked around the deadbolt and a footprint on the door. Parents don't know the term privacy or the idea that when my covers are on my body, they're there for a reason. I used to work security in college. There were a couple memorable late-night fire alarms in the dorms. It's never been an issue. Never, if you sleep naked. As I might do. Your concerns are beyond your dong flopping about. But what if your house is burning down? Then my naked ass has bigger problems than who saw my sack. And years from now, when strangers remember seeing me naked, they'll remember me watching my house ablaze with my family and dog. Because I got them out without concern about concealing my scrot. I had a bunch of friends over for a party and one of them was staying over for the first time. We've known each other for 4 years and I never knew he slept naked. Needless to say, I found it kind of funny, and the next morning he found an entire album of nudes of himself on his phone. P.S. I never sent those to anyone else if anyone's wondering. When my parents yanked my blanket off of me and I fell off of my bed. I wasn't notified about my pedo uncle getting out of jail. So one night I saw on my camera, since I had been recording myself sleep for a week, my pedo uncle come into my house and jacked off while watching me sleep, and just watched me for 3 hours. Going over the footage was disgusting. I used to sleep naked a lot, but when I started having seizures in my early mid-30s and I had one at night when I was sleeping. Well, next thing I know, my girlfriend at the time and a male and a female EMT was all huddled around me with me in the buff taking me away to the hospital. Only got a gown once I got to the hospital and only got real clothes once I got back home. Needless to say, a lot of people saw me naked that day and I now sleep with shorts on, lol. Got extremely blackout drunk at my buddy's place a very long time ago. And apparently slept on his couch after performing my usual bedtime routine. In the morning I stumbled toward the bathroom about 5% awake and still 75% wasted, and his girlfriend saw more than she ever wanted to. We all had a laugh. And woke up sobered up over pizza buffet. Not me, but a coworker. We went to California for big party hosted by the company, and the hotel we were put up in had breezeway instead of hallways. We all got totally drunk and found our coworker, naked sleeper, face down naked in the breezeway the morning after the party. He was so drunk that he went out the door of the hotel room and into the breezeway thinking it was the bathroom. They would only give him the key, so we gave him a blanket and he had to walk his naked ass to the front desk to get his key to get back into his room. Memories. It didn't backfire on me, but it backfired on the bloke who tried my front door handle in the middle of the night. The sight of me running down the stairs with a baseball bat in one hand and my bollocks flopping everywhere scared the shit of him.